Hi guys, this clip I'm about to show you demonstrates the fundamental problem with listening to politicians over listening to experts. Now, an American political commentator called David Pakman sat down with a podcaster who appears to be a Donald Trump supporter. The podcaster challenges Pakman over his lack of support for Donald Trump, asking if it's down to him as a person or his policies or both. David rightly explains that his personality isn't that important, but it's the policies that are the problem. Pakman then points to Donald Trump's position on tariffs, which results in the host having a bit of a meltdown. Have a listen.
So when it comes to Trump, do you dislike his policies or him as a person or both?
I don't dislike Trump as a person in the sense that I've never met the guy. So I think he has a lot of personality traits that make him completely unsuited to being president. And also, I think his policy prescriptions, to the extent that they exist and he understands them, which is a different part of it. A lot of the stuff Trump talks about, he still doesn't know how tariffs work. We're 8 years into this thing, 9 years in. He still thinks China pays the tariffs when they're paid by American
I've
companies.
seen him talk about tariffs.
Very confused guy.
Wait, so China's not paying tariffs right now?
The tariffs are paid by the American companies that import the Chinese goods. That's the way it's such a fundamental, and I see you looking a little confused on this one.
Yeah, I'm confused.
This is the way tariffs work. What Trump did is place tariffs on Chinese imports. By the time the imports get here, China's been paid for this stuff. Maybe they get net 120 terms, right? But in a sense, China has already transacted. The American company who brings the goods in pays the tariffs.
Really?
You're kidding right now.
No, I thought he said he was raising the tariffs by 50 to 100% for Chinese imports.
You got to clip this. I'm begging you. You got to clip this and send it to me.
No, I'm genuinely
None
confused.
of this stuff is getting cut out, right?
No.
Oh, my God.
We post everything.
Please. The tariffs are paid by the company that does the importing. So if you want to build a building in the U.S. and you import Chinese steel, you pay China for the steel, you pay the U.S. government the tariff. This is why it's inflationary. Economists have looked at Trump's tariff proposal and said it would make stuff more expensive for Americans by adding the cost of the tariffs to the total cost of production. So that's the way tariffs work. A lot of people don't seem to know how tariffs work, which is sad because this is how people end up getting sucked into Trump's vortex. He says something that sounds good. I'm going to punish China with tariffs.
Yeah.
In this case, that sounds good. Chinese tariffs. They're paid by the American companies.
Wow.
That's why it's so damaging.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send me this part of the
No, I
conversation.
will. I genuinely had no idea. I thought China was paying those.
Yep. No, China's not paying them.
Yeah. I thought they were, though.
They weren't. They're not. Yeah.
So why would he do that? I'm confused.
You'd have to ask him.
Yes, you need to ask Donald Trump. Are you going to get an answer from Donald Trump about tariffs? Of course not. And see, this is part of the problem. And we're hearing it from the likes of Nigel Farage. We're hearing it from the Tories in Britain. They spin something that sounds like it's a good idea. We're going to punish China by imposing tariffs. Now, the idea of a tariff is to protect a domestic industry. Tariffs are not necessarily a bad thing. They're there to protect a domestic industry. So, for example, when it comes to steel, you put a tariff on Chinese steel, it makes Chinese steel more expensive, with the idea that American companies, in the case of America, would rely more on American steel. But if Chinese steel is still cheaper after the tariff, then American companies will still will rely on those imports. But also, as David pointed out, this adds to inflation because this is a cost a business has to pay, and this cost will be passed on to the consumer. So the US government gets the money from the tariff, but the cost that the business pays as a result of that tariff is passed on to the final consumer. So it adds to inflation. So when Donald Trump talks about, I'm going to punish China by imposing tariffs, in a sense, it is punishing China because it's making the imports more expensive. But if those imports arrive anyway, the American company will pass on that cost to the consumer, to the end user. Now, the fundamental problem from this clip is the guy who seems to be a Donald Trump supporter, I can't be sure, but he seems to be a Donald Trump supporter, doesn't know this. And he was following Trump's lead when Trump said tariffs are going to be a punishment for China, the one that he must be telling the truth, because I don't understand how tariffs work. Instead of actually going out, if you don't understand something, listen to experts. Don't listen to politicians. Politicians are not interested in telling the truth. They're not interested in informing the public. They're interested in convincing you that they're right, convincing you to vote for them. They'll lie, they'll manipulate, and this is not something limited to the right wing. Every politician will spin things to make it sound better than it is, or spin it in a way that will convince people to vote for them. What we need to do is we need to take a step back and think, okay, what this politician is saying, is it actually true? Well, let's listen to an expert and what they have to say about this. Someone who has a reputation to lose if they're discovered to have been wrong. Because politicians don't get punished when they lie. They don't get punished when they're wrong. They just spin once again, or they double down. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.